welcome to this edition of the Podium, which is coming to you live from the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation with me, Asmiba. We start with a quote of the day, which comes from Audrey Dufresne, who is a Belgian actress, and it says, "Water is life, and clean water means health." Coming up into this edition of the program, Minister of Water Resources attends the African Ministers' Assembly and African Water Week in Gabon. What's the outcome? We shall find out. The Sierra Leone Expo 2018 trade fair to promote made in Sierra Leone products and enhance regional integration is to be hosted in Freetown. Sierra Leone Debating Council popularizes the concept of debate and critical thinking among students, and Youth in Action for Development of Islam is set to organize its second National Islamic Awards. All these and more, including its messages, which you can send to 088373504. The program is Podium. The number you can send your messages to is 088373504. The Minister of Water Resources, Dr. Jonathan Tengbe, has attended the African Ministers' Assembly and African Water Week in Libreville, Gabon. The objective of this year's meeting was achieving water security and safety managed sanitation for Africa. Dr. Tengbe highlighted Sierra Leone's agenda related to WASH activities, which include water security, infrastructure, technology, and innovation, taking into consideration the present and future needs of the country. It is hoped that under the tenure, Sierra Leone will work towards hosting the African Ministers' Assembly Conference in the future, as that will create a learning environment for WASH sector. Well, in the studio is the Minister himself. Welcome to the program, Mr. Minister.
Yeah, good morning, Ashmil. Good morning, listener.
Okay, give us a background to this conference.
Well, as AMCAO is the African Ministers' Conference on Water, and it's an offshoot or a regional conference under the Organization of African Unity, that's OAU. And it hosts ministers on a biannual basis in various countries in the region. This time we were in the eastern part of the region, that is in Libreville, Gabon. And that conference has the objective, as you stated out, mainly to exchange ideas on those objectives in terms of how we can meet key issues, how we can meet the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, which is the global umbrella for development of this water sector. So we meet and discuss issues, include financing, particularly with the financing agencies are also there, for example, the European Union, the World Bank, the African Development Bank. So how we finance those projects are also there. We hold plenary meetings and also side meetings where we exchange ideas in terms of water, how water is managed in various other countries. So we learn from each other in a way, and we take away a lot and we give away a lot as well.
Okay, and I'm sure each country presents the water status in its own country. What was Sierra Leone's status when you...
Well, our status is not really that good at the moment compared to countries like South Africa, compared to countries like Uganda and Ghana, to name a few. We are still at 40%, nationally, which is not good. But we need to learn from others. So what we actually, I did network with a number of them, those who are actually key players at the moment. For example, Uganda, they have a very good sort of system in terms of managing their utility companies or company that they have, and Ghana as well. So I have an opportunity to speak to those ministers directly and to understand what they have, how they manage to get to where. I mean, just like lessons learned from them. And also, we have our own regional, the West African region, in Nigeria, Senegal. Senegal has a very good case study. They are also developing quite a lot. And I had a bilateral meeting with Senegal and have a number of meetings with Nigeria. So that is where really you understand what others are doing, and you also have an opportunity to come back home and implement.
So what is it that those countries have done that we are yet to do?
Well, I think they have been investing a lot in infrastructure, particularly Senegal. Senegal is now actually massively investing in infrastructure. We have lagged behind in the infrastructure investment, which we are trying to do, and also it's also trying to improve the capacity building and institutional development, because without proper institutions, it's very difficult to manage even the infrastructure that we have. So we have weaknesses, and also most of them have Water Act, which we don't have. You know, our Water Act at the moment is way back in 1963, which has not been really updated. So one of my key challenges now is to be able to pass the water bill in Parliament, so that we can that will give the leeway to the Ministry of Water Resources to actually oversee the operations of the water resources across the whole country, including the utility companies, who already have their own acts. You know that we have the Salwako Act of 2017. These are very recent ones, and we have the Kuma Valley Water Act. Then we have the Water Resources Management Act. These are three main utilities under the management of the Water Resources Ministry, which but there's a missing link. We don't have an overall. Obviously, we have the 1991 Constitution, which enables the Minister of Water Resources to manage.
So are you going to codify all these acts and make them into one?
No, I'm not going to do that. They still can continue operating. What we need is an act that governs the whole water management in the country. That's what we need at the moment. I'm putting a team together now.
And you spoke about also the establishment of an agency that will regulate purely the water industry.
Yes, we have the Act of Parliament for the setting up of the National Water Resources Management Agency. We are just about to do that. We're just about to appoint a managing director. We are seeking to appoint very soon chairman and all the other board members, and also seek to have office space for them. That will happen very soon.
Is that a good practice? Is that the way it has happened in countries like Uganda, which you cited just now, or Senegal, or Nigeria?
Yeah, that is a different Water Resources Management Agency is like looking at raw water. Raw water is what other companies use. For example, if you talk about the mining companies, they use a lot of water and they pollute the water as well. So it's like that is more like an environmental approach to manage our water resources in the country. Groundwater as well. So other countries have it as well. But then they have the utility companies that actually manufacture and sell water, like what Guma Valley Water Company is doing. So they have very good models in those countries.
In your presentation, you also spoke about Sierra Leone's water resources, where you said the country has 12 rivers, but it seems as if much has not been done to harness water from these rivers so that Sierra Leoneans would have access to pure and clean water.
Yes, what has been missing, as I earlier said, is the infrastructure to actually produce the water, the pure water. You know, you need it to be treated in the treatment plant. We don't have those very good treatment plants, you know.
How safe are these 12 rivers when you look at the massive deforestation that is happening? Catchment areas have been depleted, and that is a worrying trend. So how safe are these 12 rivers?
Well, to be honest, our water is still safe, but we need to do a lot in terms of managing the catchment areas. In fact, that's one of my priorities as well. How do we manage the catchment areas of these watersheds? One of the things I'm going to do is to do some remote sensing and to know exactly, because you can never solve a problem if you don't know what is there. So we always talk about depletion of this watershed, but we don't really know the extent of the depletion. So what I'm going to do is to sort of get remote sensing companies to give me some photos and pictures of those areas that are depleted, and based on that we can put together a comprehensive action plan and projects. You know, we'll be talking to our development partners to help us to manage our watershed. And that is going to be the primary responsibility of the Water Resource Management Agency, which will manage those 12 river basins. You know, the way we are going to set it up is not like the normal utility companies. We will have boards, river basin boards and committees. You know, so if we have 12 rivers, we have 12 river basin boards that will manage those river basins in a sustainable manner.
Okay. Continue to be with us. He is Dr. Jonathan Tengbe. He is the Minister of Water Resources. It's Podium coming to you from Freetown. The Center for Entrepreneurship Development will organize the first Sierra Leone Expo 2018 trade fair to promote made in Sierra Leone products and enhance regional integration through entrepreneurship and networking in Freetown. Well, the first Sierra Leone Expo will be complementing the government's agenda in economic growth, export promotion and trade facilitation within West Africa. Well, for more on the trade fair, we have in the studio the President of the Center for Entrepreneurship Development, Alan Tuboku Medziga. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Asli.
How important is such an expo?
It's more than the word itself important for Sierra Leone at this present moment, because if you take a look at where the crossroad, whereas we need to revamp our economy and we need to take a look at where we are before we forge ahead. You will agree with me, in the past we know that we've been facing a lot of problems in the area of private sector economical issues, and we've not been growing as a country. Whenever you notice there is some failure in government in Africa, the first factor you consider as an economic, you say the private sector is not doing well. And when the private sector is not doing well, don't expect that government to succeed. So in that situations, we've been seeing previous governments in Sierra Leone not actually succeeding, because the private sector as a factor that's supposed to have actually ginger up the public sector or to serve as the engine for growth has not been there to actually complement either the government, or either the government has not been creating the enabling environment. So it's vice versa. But this time around, we've decided to actually step in to complement the public sector. We are not government, but there is always a phenomenon that says the public-private partnership. We are in there to actually give that support to the government of the day as a private sector organization, a trade organization. This is one of our mandate or one of our activities, annual activities, doing a trade fair exhibition.
Yeah, which kind of businesses or which kind of products, Sierra Leonean products, are you planning to show to the
The theme itself is Sierra Leonean products. It might be Gary. As long as it's a Sierra Leonean product, you are qualified to actually showcase in our expo. As long as it's a Sierra Leonean product. We are targeting Sierra Leonean product and even West African products, because what we are looking at, before you decide to go and compete with the European markets or European competitors, it's better you actually try to test the regional markets or the regional competitors. If you're able to defeat a Ghanaian competitor here, then you have the zeal or the enthusiasm or the optimism to actually challenge somebody.
Well, many times there is a problem with Sierra Leonean products, the issue of packaging, the issue of brands. These are two key issues that
I agree with
Sierra Leonean products.
I agree with you. I mean, you don't need to be an economics to actually identify that problem or that challenge. That is why, you know, the Ministry of Trade have an agency called the Local Content Agency, and that agency is actually in there to actually complement the Ministry of Trade in the area of actually rebranding, try to provide those capacity for our producers in the area of rebranding, quality management. If you know, we also have the Standards Bureau that is actually there to design standards. Now what the Ministry of Trade through the agency, that is the Local Content Agency, they've already done strategic plans and projects in the area of made in Sierra Leone products. So now if you have to produce your Sierra Leone products, there need to be a brand or there need to be a sticker on it, made in Sierra Leone. You don't just stick it on it yourself, but it has to be confirmed and validated by the local content agency that actually this product is up to the international standards, or it is of quality, the brand is there. Because remember, the minister earlier this year actually made a pronouncement, a policy statement that, I mean, all supermarkets will be encouraged to actually display Sierra Leone products. Well, some people interpret it negatively, but I guess the reason why the minister came up with such a statement is actually to motivate the Sierra Leoneans that, oh, if I'm going to display my product in that supermarket, I think I need to have some standard to compete with those products.
Is that not what the minister should have done first, maintaining the standard before asking supermarkets are the products here the Sierra Leonean products?
Remember, the government is not a businessman. And what government is doing is actually to design policies, formulate policies. And they expect the private sector to actually complement those policies. And how to do it? There are private sector organizations that should actually, this is a good opportunity for the private sector. the statement of the minister is an opportunity for the private sector to say, now it's like, if you're a businessman, you need to go and come with a lot of machines from abroad to say, okay, now I'm going to be here to design brands for people. How many private sector organizations? Remember, just like for the seats, the Poda, the mini bus, the last time, there was a policy statement that no more iron seats will be allowed, metal seats will be allowed in those vehicles. How many private sector organization or private sector businessmen decide to actually go abroad and import seats, design seats and brand seats for those vehicles? No. So meaning we need to be proactive as business people. Similarly, the minister earlier this year encouraged supermarkets to actually accommodate Sierra Leonean producers to display their products. And now what is happening? We need to see private sector entities to actually design factories, industry, to actually help producers to get brands. Like what is happening in Miller Group, what is happening at Shankadas. You know, the water you drink is being designed here. The brand is being done here, either at Miller or at Shankadas. So those plastic is a form of brand. Let's say Asmiro water, pure water. That's a brand. That's your brand name. But again, how you do your packaging. You go to Ghana, you see the made in Ghana Gari. You go to the UK, you go to one of the supermarkets in the UK, you'll find those Gari in those supermarkets. But you'll not find Sierra Leonean Gari because our Gari here is in plastic. Either tied up in plastic or even just being sealed in the plastic. Okay. Will that be actually appropriate for international competition? No. So in actual fact, the reason why we decided to actually limit our trade fair to West Africa, Sierra Leone and West Africa, is to actually encourage Sierra Leoneans.
So what's going to be your own standards as well? Because I'm sure you also have a standard. You not just open it as everyone to come.
Yes, I had discussion with the head of local content agency, and they will also be identifying those guys with those standards of products that will be there as well. And that is one, and also we'll be having other guys from the West African countries to actually complement the Sierra Leonean product and try to encourage, and we'll have the B2B, that's business to business. It's not just about buying and selling in the trade fair. It's about how you create the networking with others and how you design partnership. Okay,
he is the president of the Center for Entrepreneurship Development, Alam Tuboku Medziga. It's Podium, reaching you from Freetown. Sierra Leone Debating Council is an organization of young university students whose aim is to promote the culture of critical thinking and debate, which many say have eroded in our society. Well, the council has organized a series of debates which are tailored to meet the British parliamentary system of style. Well, to tell us more about the activities, we have in the studio Moses Moore, who is the national president and coordinator, National Debating Council. Welcome to the program, Moses.
Thank you.
Okay. What are your latest activities?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just as you've stated in your opening, the Sierra Leone Debating Council has been here for quite some time now, and we have been organizing debates in tertiary institutions and also secondary schools, high schools. We have been doing all of these activities to ensure that we prepare young people for the future. We all know that most times when graduates go to seek employment, there has been this usual concern that the graduates have not been able to live up to the certificates they purport to have specialized in. And you can see somebody graduate with a first-class degree, somebody graduate with a Division 1, but that person cannot live up to that particular degree. So those are problems that we talk about. In linguistics, we have a concept we call la langue la parole. That is, competence should go with performance. And because
so lack of debates a reason for that.
Yeah, well, now debates to a very large extent builds the confidence in people to be able to stand and speak. And we know in Africa most times we don't encourage young people to stand and air their views out. You know, most times if you can view around, you notice that homes, even the homes, the problem is even the homes, because sometimes some homes do not even allow their children to even speak their minds freely. It's like they are under that kind of a subjugation, and so when they come out from the homes, they transfer the same traits, that shy trait, and they cannot speak outside. So it will have to take some time to train them, to develop them, to ensure that they're able to fit into any kind of a society. So like as I said, we identified problems first, why we're coming up with debates. Okay, there has been this problem of graduates not being able to live up to communicate well or communicate effectively, which has been a problem. And so many times people come with good degrees, but yet cannot land employment opportunities. So it becomes a problem, and it causes some disappointment, and it causes frustration or what have you. The universities, to a very large extent, promote the rote model of learning. They only try to get the cognitive set. The cognitive, that is the cramming and passing, to a very large extent in Sierra Leone. We don't have an educational curriculum that seeks to, all-roundedly prepare students to also be able to stand and speak and do very good presentations. When we leave Sierra Leone and go to compete outside Sierra Leone, you find out that the curriculum of people outside Sierra Leone, ensures that it prepares them for life after the university. It's not just about cramming and passing, because in today's world, just as he has spoken about, you have to market yourself. Even when you go for job interviews, it's much about how you market yourself. It's much about how you are able to convince your employer that you are the most suited for.
So how has your council helped change that tide?
Yeah, we have been able to produce a number of good lawyers now, journalists, because we celebrated our 8th anniversary at the House of Parliament, Republic of Sierra Leone. And we celebrated youth empowerment for all these 8 years. Of course, you were with us at the last event at Miata Conference Center when we had the National Interquarterly Debate Championship. That was the 2nd edition. And the best speaker represented us in Accra, Ghana. And he won it. He won the debate in Accra, Ghana. So we have been making inroads, and we are also trying to also rewrite the narrative of Sierra Leone. That, hey, you have to wake up, world. We are not as we were 10 years down the line. We have come up, and we are also seeing how best we show our excellence in terms of public speaking, in terms of education, and what have you. So we have been able to establish that. We have been able to produce students who have gone to represent us internationally and have dazzled international platforms.
Okay, and many times people don't even understand the concept of debate. The only thing when they say debate is two people arguing. It's not about critical thinking and stuff like that. It goes beyond just arguing.
Sure, definitely. It's a very good question. Thank you once again. And I think we need to make that very clear. Debating most times, traditionally, we believe it's much about blowing grammar. It's much about the jargons you would have to deploy, to be able to get people, to mesmerize them or to make them feel happy, and probably sometimes people would have to clap for you just because you are speaking jaw-breaking words. But it's beyond that. Now, in debate, Section 25(1) of Act Number 6 of the 19th Constitution gives us the right to freedom of expression. Okay? Now, in debating, it's the culture of sound argument. Now, you have the right to speak, but you also have the responsibility to speak responsibly. And in debating, you don't just come and speak sentiments, you speak fallacies, and you carry the day. It's much about the logic in your argument. It's much about the statistics you are able to put forward to also add to your case.
The applicability.
The applicability and what have you, illustrations or what have you. So sentiments most times do not come in, and you don't win debate by sentiment. And if we want to develop our democracy, I believe debates must be encouraged, even in high schools, because these high school pupils, these university students will have to someday become legislators. They'll have to someday become parliamentarians. They'll have to someday become ministers. So if their minds are prepared, to think critically, to think out of the box. Now, before the minister came here, he must have also done his research as to probably the topic he's going to talk about. So we also want to see how best we raise awareness of research, because you cannot convince people if you've not done very good research. So research is very important. And most times, the internet world now, people go on Google, they download things verbatim, and then they just send, just like that. So again, how do you also synthesize? Now, from the content you would have got, how do you intelligently look at what is important for the day? Because you don't have all the time to say all the things you would have done your research of. So how you summarize, and those are skills that don't come just when you go to class. These are skills that come when you join these youth empowerment platforms.
Okay. He is Moses Moore, the National President and Coordinator National Debating Council. It's Podium coming to you from Florida. Youth in Action for the Development of Islam, YADI, is an Islamic organization that was established in 2014 to promote religious tolerance, education, women's empowerment. And the organization is set to organize its second National Islamic Awards, which will showcase Muslim talents, appreciate people who have worked hard for the development of Islam and the country. Well, the award will serve as a motivation to other Muslims as well. Well, December 16th is the day scheduled for the award at the Miata Conference Center, What in is Amadou Ibai to tell us more about that. Welcome to the program, Amadou.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk a bit about this. How important is such an event in Islam, awarding people?
Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Firstly, I want to say the National Islamic Award is the second time we're doing it, and the first time it happened last year, 2017, and we saw the need of appreciating people for the wonderful effort they have been making to push Islam to another level. If we look at our country, we realize that the high rates of corruption and all the other isms that are really dragging us to the train is because the young people are not much engaged in religion or other moral valued issues. So we saw that as an organization, we can be able to engage young people in doing activities that are related to moral values. Adding that moral value in them, we believe, can help in curtailing some
So your focus are the young people? Are they the ones who are going to get awards?
Well, it is young people that have come together that are working towards national development through an award ceremony. So looking at different facets of society, people have been working tremendously hard for the development of Islam and also towards national development. So we saw the need of showing thanks and appreciation to these people through the National Islamic Awards.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you normally look for an individual to become a recipient or an awardee?
Okay. Well, for every category has its own criteria. Yeah. For example, we have the best Islamic organization. That particular award category looks at the legality of existence of the organization. For example, because we have certain organizations that are not even legally registered with the government. So we are trying to promote that culture of legality with organizations. So you have to be well registered with the government, and also looking at your aims and objectives that you have stated as an organization, you should have been working towards those aims and objectives. You should have had a legacy with regards to the activities that you are doing, and also we look at the impact that you have made on the community and the people that you are serving. So looking at all of those various criteria, then we gave the opportunity to various Islamic organization heads, because we saw that nominations, if we open nomination to the general public, people can just nominate any organization that they feel like. So we saw the need of engaging all the Islamic organizations across the country. We called them to a consultative conference where we gave them the opportunity to nominate on the various categories that we have. So out of their nominations, we also had a jury that we formed, which is an independent committee that is comprising of various Islamic scholars and other personalities. So those people were there to validate those nominations. So the people with the highest nominations were debated on, and finally we had our nominees.
So that's how far you've gone so far.
Yeah, and basically we have also engaged the other provinces like the north, the east, and also the south, because talking about a national event, you cannot just limit it to Freetown and say it's a national event. So what we did, we engaged other Islamic organizations that have been working with these people in the provinces. We went there, we called them on a meeting, various Islamic organizations, various Islamic school principals, and other masjid jama'as. We called them together in a meeting and made them also to do their nominations in their own regions. So at the end of the day, we are able to gather our nominees from all the other 3 regions, including also the western area, to get our nominees for the various categories.
So which other categories do you have? Are individuals going to be awarded?
Yeah, we have series of categories. We have the Best Islamic Organization, Best Islamic Secondary School, Best College Muslim Jamaat, Tahfiz Center of the Year, that is the Quran Memorization Centers. We have Imam of the Year, we have Inspirational Muslim Woman of the Year, we have Inspirational Chef of the Year, we have Best Islamic Promotional TV, for which SLBC is a nominee. We have the Anashid Song of the Year, which is the Islamic songs. We have Best Muslim Politician, we have Best Muslim Journalist, we have Best Muslim Medical Practitioner, Best Muslim Legal Practitioner, and the Lifetime Achievement Awards. Added to that, we have other 5 honorary award categories that we think there are certain people who will deserve them that we are going to award on that particular day.
Okay, continuing to with us is Amadou Wuribari. The program is Podium, coming to you from Peter. Dr. Tembe, I'm sure the issue of African countries achieving the SDGs, especially the one that has to do with water, what is Sierra Leone standing on that towards achieving the SDG?
I think it's very, very poor at the moment, I must say. We are at, say, roughly 40%, and we are expected to get to 100% by 2030. So that's the challenge. How do we get there? That's a big question, and I think we are working towards that. I thought that when I took over, I thought there are two areas we can sort of approach. One is infrastructure development, renew our infrastructure and provide new infrastructure for water and sanitation as well, and also improve the governance structures of the managing agents, including government, in terms of how we manage service delivery within our service providers like Salwako and Guma Valley Water Company, and coming up the agency. How do we manage that? So I've looked at all those structures, and I believe that there are missing links, to be honest. As I said earlier, we need to have a new Water Act. That's one thing which we are working on. That Water Act will actually give stronger mandate to the Ministry of Water Resources to manage those utility companies, and by doing so, you will be able to look at those companies also, and to make sure that, to ask yourself, do we really need 2 companies for a small country like Sierra Leone, 7 million people? When you look at Uganda, when you look at Ghana, maybe they have only 1 utility company and they're managing it very well. Do we need them?
But the one Guma Valley has not been performing well. Even its mandate is to provide water for Freetown, but even in Freetown, larger communities, yes, majority of the population in Freetown are not having access to Guma Valley water.
I agree with you. That's what I said. We have 40% access.
So the more reason why many people think we need 2 companies.
No. I don't think that's the reason. It's just that Guma has originally been here. They are sort of traditionally been over 60 years managing the water company of Guma Valley Water Company, and then we had degrimon systems in the provinces. So we could not. They didn't have the capacity to take on all those old degrimon schemes, which were going to be renewed. So that's why they formed Salwako. The Salwako just came out of the ministry. The ministry was managing that before. The water supply division within the ministry was transformed to Salwako. So that's the rationale behind it. But they are not also perfect, because their rural water supply system is not, really working very well. So we need to look at them as well. So it's not only Guma that is having problems. So my view, as a minister, in charge of the 2 utility companies and the rest of the ministry, I have got an informed decision now, and looking at other models across that we need to start the debate. The debate is one, to be able to ask ourselves, can we have a new act, that is the act of Water Act or the Sanitary Act, new wash policy. We need that. And once we have those acts that is approved by Parliament, those are the acts that we will be able to write some of those challenges within the act to overcome some of these gray areas. Once we have that, there is a question of actually, which the President actually wanted us to do also within this year, within these 5 years, to unbundle the water sectors. And unbundle simply means to be able to pass some of the responsibilities of those companies, like Guma Valley Water Company and Salwako, to service providers, similar to what is done with the electricity company, that is EDA. Now the Energy Ministry has EDSA that is doing their sales of electricity. So probably it is very, very difficult for the water. So
bring in the PPP, the public-private partnership.
Sort of something like that, but it's very difficult for us to do that because we don't have the infrastructure. Water, where is the infrastructure that we are going to give to the public? Guma Valley Water, the Guma Dam has problems. It's being rehabilitated at the moment, and we are planning to bring in a new dam to bring new water supply from Rukel. And when we achieve that, By the time we achieve that, what will happen is that we have a renewed infrastructure for Freetown and the provinces. And then now we are going to start looking at the governance structure of how we are going to manage those infrastructure. And once we have that governance structure in place, ready to manage the infrastructure in terms of operation and maintenance, that's one, and also actually billing and getting revenue out of the sales of water to be able to continuously manage that infrastructure.
It seems as if you have lots in your plate. Can you take on all these ones?
Well, it's a management.
When you look at the kind of bleak and grim picture that you've painted, it seems as if this cannot be achieved in the next 5 years.
This is what I inherited, but I can tell you that it's only the management structure, capacity. I'm going to build up the capacity within the ministry because, first of all, what I've done is I've set up a project management unit within the ministry that was not there before. So there was nobody actually managing the implementation of those projects. I'm going to look for I've looked for consultants to do the feasibility study. Now the tender is out and we are going to appoint a consultant. So I don't have to do all these things myself. You know, all I need is to get the idea and then get these consultants and my team or experienced people. If I have experienced engineers from other countries, Sierra Leoneans are out there that I can bring home to be able to do that job. I think it's doable. As long as you know what you are going to do and you have a plan. And I have a strategic plan, I have a master plan to implement all what I'm talking about.
So what is the water situation in Africa during the conference?
Well, it varies from country to country. For example, South Africa, you know that is more developed. They are probably at 95.
But recently they also had some drought problem that they even started rationing water.
Yes. Well, obviously, what they do is they have the infrastructure, but what they have is the problem is where the source of water. That's the opposite. We don't have the water. We don't have the infrastructure, but we have the water. And some of them have the water, have the infrastructure, but they don't have the water. So I think they are solving that, the drought issues, they are working on it. But Uganda is doing well. They are not also 100%, but they are doing very well.
What about those countries that have maybe rivers that run through countries? And sometimes, I think, is it in Ethiopia also? They're having problem, even in the Nile, Egypt and other countries having problem as to who should have access to certain water.
Yes, that's the transboundary problem. This is also being addressed at that level. We have a governing council and we have all the ministers together. In fact, Sierra Leone now is part of the governing council. So we have the possibility to actually address and help address those transboundary problems. That transboundary problem is not only addressed at the AMCAO level, but it's also addressed at the Islamic. I went to Egypt 2 weeks ago to the Islamic Water Ministers Council, where most of the issues we are talking about was transboundary issues, particularly the Nile River that is going through all those countries, and Ethiopia is actually building a dam, and so there's a strong negotiation between the two countries, and Egypt is downstream and Ethiopia is upstream. So it's a problem, I must admit, but they are working on it. You know, they are.
Is this something we are facing in the Mano River Union?
Well, the Mano River Union, we are not yet facing it because most of the rivers are located in remote areas where it is less populated and there's less industries. But in the future, I think we will. For example, the Rokel is running from Guinea down through to Sierra Leone, and Moa River is shared by Sierra Leone and Guinea. So there is also transboundary issues. So this is something that we need to engage. We'll start engaging Guinea and Liberia to be able to look at it from the sub-regional point of view.
Okay. Here is Dr. Jonathan Tengbe, the Minister of Water Resources. We are going for a short break. After the break, we're back. We are back with the program Podium, which is coming to you from Freetown with me, Asmiba. Send your message to the number you see on the screen. Mr. Mexico, is it going to be like the trade fair which is normally organized by the Chamber of Commerce?
It's similar, but there are different activities. The trade fair is similar related to the trade fair, but this trade fair this time around has an involvement of training and award. The trade fair is actually 1 month, which is the 15th December to the 15th January next year. And each week of that period, we'll have a 2 days training conference, business conference, 2 days. And those training will be conducted by experts from different spheres of life, either from the banking sector, the financial sector, the universities, from even the public sector. So we'll be having different people to come and facilitate different topics. Somebody will be facilitating topic on financial management or banking and finance, on how to do savings, on how to do insurance, because most of our SMEs these days, they don't even go to the bank. They don't even have time with banking. They keep their money at home. Some don't even know how to do insurance, how to insure their product or how to insure their businesses and all of those things. So we'll be having people to actually provide training, and they will be certified with professional certificates. And even after the end of the entire program, the trade fair, they will have an award. An award will be given to entrepreneurs and other successful business people within the country.
To show that they have taken part in the
not only the trade fair, but we've taken it into consideration from the beginning of last year to dates, and different guys who have achieved some Sierra Leone, because one of the mandates of the Center for Entrepreneurship Development is to develop Sierra Leone entrepreneurs. That is point one. It's our core mandate. We want to develop young entrepreneurs, we want to develop women entrepreneurship, we want to develop even retirees. These are the three actual people we are targeting: young people, women, and retirees. We want to be sure at least we develop them to a particular stage. And taking a look at the trade fair, it's a forum where us will be having a lot of people on board, like the corporates, the banks will be there, and other successful business people will be there, and they will be there actually to showcase their services.
The venue?
At Miata Conference Car Park.
Okay.
Yes, and the training will take place at the lobby, and also it will be on the 15th December to the 15th January, and the president of the country will actually be the keynote speaker and will have to declare the trade fair officially open.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Meziga. Moses, what have you in line now for this December? Last year, December, you held the one you spoke about at the Miata conference, which I witnessed, and are you having a similar one this year again?
Yes, very well. So we will be having a similar, an annual event now. Every December, we get the best of the best speakers, the creme de la creme, who will represent us at international fora. And this year, of course, we will start on the 6th, of course, usual 3 days. The 6th at the British Council Auditorium, 6th of December, on the 7th at Miata Conference Center, and of course the grand finale at the House of Parliament.
Well, I mean, what is symbolic about hosting it at the House of Parliament? What is symbolism behind it?
Very symbolic. Being a literature student myself, Parliament is the heart of our democracy, and we have all been craving for very articulate parliamentarians who could really lead critical advocacy. And if we want to do that, we don't do that in a vacuum. We've been hearing about sustainable development, but you cannot talk of sustainable development if you don't have the young people who you should prepare to take after when the old banana trees would have faded out. We are the young suckers, you know. And when I came, I was also speaking with Dr. Tengwe, and he was saying that he wanted a debate. We're going to have debates on water resources because we believe water is very important. We're going to have critical issues: good governance, national security, water education. Of course, we know it's the flagship program now. We also want to critically look at it. Okay, we believe for people to make sound electoral decisions, we need debates because policies have to be scrutinized. Because we don't have to be sentimental about our future.
Did you do that during the campaigns when politicians were canvassing the votes of Sierra Leoneans?
Yes, very well so we did. We were at various platforms. We were at AYV, and in fact, we were at the Bintumani Hotel. We were also part of the committee that staged the presidential debate. So for me, that was really very spectacular because it showed that in our development trajectory, there's the young in mind. So even if those who were older, because we were the youngest amongst those who were committee members. Even those who were older would have faded away. We already know the ropes now, and we can be able to also stage such an event. So like as I said, even in making electoral decisions, we don't have to be sentimental about it. It should be based on who has a better policy that will transform the nation. And that should not happen in a vacuum. So critical thinking is very important in that particular play.
And people say that is something lacking, not only it is lacking inside. People are not critically minded. Sometimes when you ask critical questions, you are labeled. From university to various professions, even as journalists, sometimes when you ask critical questions, you are either labeled as green or red.
It's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. And I tell you, we have not been building that steam right from the university. You know why our nation is like this? I tell you, our universities have failed to a very large extent. To a very, very large extent. Because that is where it's just like when we were at the university. They said university is a microcosm for the wider society. You know, if the university can produce the best of best individuals, they are the ones who come to occupy positions of trust. So it permeates into society. And if the society is polarized, then of course we have to go back from the source. So we believe if we are to go forward and we are to make the gains, even in entrepreneurship, because to have an entrepreneurial mind, you have to be critical. You have to be able to assess properly whether this particular good, you know, will get the kind of attraction, because you have to know your market. In entrepreneurship, if you don't think critically as to the product and the location at which you're making your business, you will not be able to make profits. So as part of some of the things even we are proposing to the university, we're telling them that entrepreneurship and critical force thinking should be a course that should be done right across. If we want to shift the burden of government employing everybody, then entrepreneurship should be encouraged. Now, I can be a lawyer. I'm studying, of course, my second degree I'm doing now. You know, you don't have to depend on government to give you a job. Now, if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, you have the skills to even make business for yourself, you can open your business and make money for yourself. Again, we also have to sensitize people. Young people now, we think it's much about you having the tie and the coat and sitting in an office that will make you successful. You know, and these are things we have to bring to the fore, even in our debates. Because, you know, we have to change it. We have to have a paradigm shift. Okay. Development or you becoming successful does not mean you have to be than others. You can have a very good idea, just like Mark Zuckerberg. He never had a university degree, but somebody who was very innovative enough, but he was able to make that kind of an impact. So we want our education to be also tailored in a particular form.
Okay, thank you, Moses Moore. Amadou, how far have you gone with preparations?
Well, I would say very far, because we have already done nominations, and by the end of this week, we will release the list of nominees to the general public, and also try to see how best we can start up the voting process, because the winners are going to win based on the votes.
Is voting, I mean, earlier you spoke about this issue of, is voting the right way? Because not all the time the most popular is the most fittest.
Yeah.
Someone can be the most popular, but he or she is not the most fittest person to have won. But because majority voted for him or her, he wins.
Okay, so this brings us.
That is a downside to voting.
Yeah, this brings us to the issue of the independent committee, the jury. The people who are part of the jury are people who are well conversant of the Islamic community, and people who have been working in the arena of Islamic development. So what we did, we decided to give them a stake of the voting. So they will be covering 60% of the voting, and the 40% will be going to the general public. Okay. So with that, we believe we can be very much fair to the candidates who will be part of the nominations. Okay. You know, people have been asking as to why we decided to come up with the National Islamic Awards and all of that. So I will say this again: the National Islamic Awards is not to tell people that this person is better than this person, but to show appreciation for what people have been.
Is it part of the Islamic practices? Because there is a principle in Islam which says once your right hand gives, your left hand should not know what the right hand has given.
Yes, definitely.
And so, and the Quran also says it is better for the deeds that you do in private.
Yeah. So that takes us to one hadith that says, "Man la yashkuru nas, la yashkuru la." They say, those who do not give thanks to the people do not thank God. So we have been having consultations with Islamic scholars. This is one strong tradition of Yadi. We never do anything without involving our scholars. So the likes of Sheikh Farouk, Dr. Ramadan, and all the other big scholars have been in consultation.
What about the concept of Riyah and Nas for the eyes seen of men?
Yeah, well, for Riyah,
sometimes awards can lead to that.
Sure. Well, that is it could be debatable. Yeah, because you who are doing you the person that is doing your particular deeds, if you are awarded, it is up to you to take it as Riyah or just to accept it as a form of thankfulness.
Okay, so the date again?
It is the 16th of December.
It's going to be free an event?
Well, it is not free because we are self-funding. We do not have funders. So it is going to be through patron entries. We have the 100,000 patron, which is the silver, then the 150, the gold, and the 250 platinum, and we have VIP that is strictly by donations.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, let's go for one text message that says the project to extend the river for drinking or consumption of the general public is laudable initiative, but my concern is how we would sustain the purification of these waters, considering the geographical location surrounded with several activities like farming, mining, fishing, etc. All these activities pollute these waters. Dr. Tango, this text must have come from an enlightened person who knows about the subject.
Yes, that's a question for the environmentalist and environmental impact assessment that's going to be done, and design will be done. So the treatment plant definitely will have to look at that. So what I'm thinking as an engineer, if I'm confronted with the polluted water, I will have to purify it and test it. So we'll have a testing regime.
What about preventing the pollution itself? Preventing the source not to be polluted?
Well, this is a two-tier approach. I'm looking at the design of the treatment plant and how I can get the water out. Preventing it is going to be dealt with as well through other preventive.
Isn't that the best option to go?
Yeah, because that's the only option we have at the moment. So it's either we get rid of the activities there, which is the government can do that. We have a policy. If we believe that they are polluting the waters unnecessarily. They're not even supposed to pollute to be in the first place. So it's because it's an uncontrolled, it's uncontrolled at the moment. So that's why they are polluting. So pollution is one of the things that we will deal with. For example, I know that ADAX is there and they have a contract that ends. So maybe we will not even renew their contract. So there are several ways we would have to deal. But I want to wait for the recommendations of the.
Okay, now 6 months in office. What have been your achievements or challenges? So
well, the challenges have been many, obviously, but I can see light at the end of the tunnel.
Some people say, I mean, nearly all the ministers have been complaining we inherited. The majority of them said they inherited bad systems. Some say those were just political statements.
Well, I don't want to blame anyone in this. This has been water resources is a national thing. It's owned by all of us, and every one of us have a responsibility to manage the water properly.
And one time, that ministry was described as one of the best ministries, if not the best.
When?
During the APC reign. Under that performance contract, I remember they went to State House and the ministry was given a clean bill of health as the best ministry.
I don't know how
that met what they were supposed to.
I don't know what criteria they used to measure that, so I will not be able to make comments on that. But what I know is that we have several challenges, and I know that our objective, the President's clear objective and vision, is to provide quality water for the people of Sierra Leone, particularly Freetown and the provinces. And that is why we're looking at it from the point of view of developing infrastructure to bring 100 to 200 cubic meters of water into Freetown, which is not there. So how he performed without bringing 200 cubic meters of water into Freetown, that's another challenge that you need to answer. And to be able to provide water in all the provincial towns. I'm working on a plan. I have a strategic and master plan for that, which I'm going to do. And also to improve the governance structure. That is to make the provision of water more sustainable in future. We have good operational maintenance systems. We have good structures within the administration of these water utilities. And we also have to look at government expenditure in terms of why are we spending so much money in some of these utilities. Okay. So these are the things I'm looking at. Thank you.
Minister, finally, very soon we shall be approaching the dry seasons, and that's one of the times that people have been very difficult to have access to water. taps, even in the rains, some communities only rely on rainwater. And you can imagine what it takes during the dries when the rainwater is not available.
Well, somebody got high performance management, but when I inherited the ministry, there was only one bowser working, or at least there was even no bowser to supply water to people's houses. But I have been able to get most of the bowsers working, and I've got funding now from the Ministry of Finance to be able to bring up all the bowsers, and that's what we are going to do, to drop water in the interim while we are looking at long term. And I'm also looking at implementing 45 industrial boreholes to tap water from the aquifers, and also to be able to manage the watersheds so that the future will be brighter for Freetown.
Thank you very much. He is Dr. Jonathan Tengbe, the Minister of Water Resources. Well, that's how we end this edition of the Podium. My guests have been the Minister of Water Resources, Moses Moore, Alan Tuboku Medziga, and also Amadou Ibari from the Youth Action for Development of Islam. That's how we say goodbye. We have all of us and my producer Salma Taba. I've been your host Asimiba. Till we join you again tomorrow. God bless you. Goodbye.